Good afternoon. Welcome to the PrintWeek India Awards webinar. What's your green quotient? This would be a 60 to 70 minutes long duration webinar. I'm delighted to announce that our esteemed panelists for this session are S N Venkatraman, who is Vice President Marketing with ITC Paperboard and Specialty Papers Division. We also have Vijay Jadhav, who's the plant head at Repro India. And we have N. Muthu, who is an expert at the CII Godrej GVC. That's three of our panelists. We also have other delegates who are listening in, and hopefully a few of them will join us once as the session proceeds. There are two or three reasons for conducting this webinar. One is, of course, the importance of green and the entire green theme. It's something that we at PrintWeek since the last 6 to 7 years have been grappling with. We're extremely grateful to Venkatraman and his team at ITC for being able to provide us with a certain kind of environmental performance, as a result of which we were able to start off with the PrintWeek India Awards Green Initiative from the last year. While we were trying to look at the green perspective, we visited innumerable plants and we realized that green in India is a bit like corruption. Everybody talks about it, everybody knows what it is, but unfortunately there are very few ground rules that we came across in our assessment or analysis of various plants. One plant which was a pleasant surprise to us, and I'll begin this webinar with a small case study of this particular plant. The plant that impressed us a great deal, and we subsequently found a few other printing plants which had similar sustainability models and environmental models, was the Hindu plant in Coimbatore. This is probably not one of the larger facilities, as some of you who are listening would know that you have plants in Chennai and Hyderabad. This was in comparison one of the smaller plants. This particular plant has the Mitsubishi Diamond Spirit, which prints at 75,000 CPH with 546 mm cutoff and a web width of 1397 mm. So Coimbatore, as you know, is in a rain shadow region. It has a beautiful river called Sarvani, which is there, but there is a certain amount of shortage of water. And one of the nice things that they were able to do at the Hindu was design it in a way that the rainwater could be harvested in small pits at distances of about 3 to 5 meters. The surface area was laid with paver blocks, and therefore the water seepage, which was otherwise getting wasted, was being recycled or being used for other facilities within the Hindu. That was one very nice initiative. The other thing was open well system, which again, as you can see from this particular slide, where again it prevented the rainwater from going to the road outside. In addition to this, the Hindu plant had also water supply valves. Primarily, you had overhead tanks, as you have them with most plants, and then there were 5 circuit valves and about 20 distribution valves. Essentially, what it meant was 2 or 3 things. It meant that there was an ergonomic design for the water piping system. It also meant 0 leaks, and moreover, it also meant that when repair work needed to be done, it could be done at a very sort of quick turnaround. In terms of quanta, I mean, what does all this mean? Why are we sort of spending so much of time on water? Is that if the Hindu used to sort of, utilize about 20,000 liters of water per day, now it was, because of these systems, able to reduce it to about 12,000 liters a day. And I'm told this study was done about 14 months ago. So I'm told now this number and quanta has reduced even further. So it almost translates into about 40 to 45% of saving, both on water as well as power consumption. In addition to this, and this was again a small device which we spotted in the unit, is a dust collector. It collects the fine dust occurring at the spot where the paper shearing, when the infeed's happening and so on, at that particular spot it's done. We also found these dust collectors in a few of the packaging converting units when we traveled across the country. Again, a very small investment, but very handy, very useful. And again, we find that these are the small things, if in the checklist, if plants have, the green initiative can really be strong. The other thing that we found, again, very, very basic, but regular flow maintenance and cleaning. And some of the plants, again, where we visited, this is conducted at probably twice in a shift. Sometimes it's 4 hours, 4 times in a shift. It's essentially the initiative of the production head and so on. But as a result of some of these initiatives that we've sort of already discussed, what we find at the Hindu in Coimbatore is that the web break is about 0.78%, which is very, very good. So which means that of the 550 days that the newspaper is produced, 504 days are run without any stoppage. That's almost 92%. So that's in addition to the cleaning process and the maintenance that you find on the shop floor, you also have the AHUs, which is the air handling units. This is again something we have found, and some of you would probably contest that the Hindu is obviously a a fairly big media giant, and they can invest in all this. But these kind of initiatives we've also found in smaller printing plants outside Pune, where you don't necessarily need to invest in an AC. You can use the environment and the atmosphere around you, and therefore with the help of AHUs essentially maintain the temperature in the press hall, mail room, or even in your post press. So what is an AHU? If you look at this particular photograph, you can see that it's a device. It basically sucks the atmospheric air from the outside and filters and circulates that air within the press room. Again, very good because it essentially ensures that your paper quality is maintained, the weathering is done well. It's also very good for the task force, the labor which is inside. Again, another very simple initiative that they have at the Hindu is within the press room, you get maximum illumination. And again, this is done by cleaning the tubes about thrice a month. Again, very small initiative. Sometimes we just look for replacements and so on. But this includes cleaning and hygiene for the tube fitting shades and wash as well. In addition to that, at the Hindu, they also have the street lighting facility, which is outside, which is the WMHL. And in addition to that, in the last few months, we've been seeing this a lot of LED lights which are replacing the traditional lights which have been there in the press rooms. And finally, you have efficient lighting. It's also a question of the distance in which you maintain your light, and this can therefore, conserve a lot of energy. We find that again within the Hindu, when we did the study along with their team, we found that it's about 2,737.5 units per year which is saved. So this is basically in terms of carbon dioxide emission, it's about 2,090 kilos of emission. So modified AC condenser unit which functions as a fan. And so again, the interesting thing is that instead of going in for a brand new high cost capital investment, what essentially is also happening in different parts is utilization of scrap outdoor units, and then using these exhaust fans as cooler fans. And therefore you can have a fairly decent cooling system. So again, this whole notion that green is generally a Western and a European concept. The fact is that there have been remedies, low cost Indian remedies over here using Indian material and Indian scrap material. Again, this is something we are finding with building designs, whether it is at the Hindu, whether it is at other packaging units or converting plants across the country, is usage of glass or usage of the walls in such a way that you can have light during the day inside the plant, so you can again utilization of natural light as opposed to electric light. Again, very good because it's sort of great for organization morale and the worker morale. And basically what we find is that during the day hours, the plant utilizes only about 50 to 60% of light energy. Again, a huge saving on that, just simply by tweaking your building design a little bit. Plus, of course, we have now some of the more standard features. These are things like roller washers for the press usage. Again, auto blanket cleaning systems, and this is again done at a regular basis, so which means again hygiene and maintenance. This is something we are finding again as part of green initiative across, especially in the packaging and commercial printing with the usage of UV. There's a lot of insistence on hand gloves, goggles, masks, ear muffs to avoid any kind of chemical reaction and harm. More and more people are taking part, are taking care of their workers, and we find that they're going that extra mile and to do so. In terms of the Hindu, again, the power backup, you can see the electric saving is about 35% of the annual energy cost. There's also water saving, which is substantial. And plus, because of these initiatives, the carbon dioxide emission reduction is also fairly substantial. So there is, again, there's, in addition to the cost invested in it, you can also see that there's a huge cost where you have benefited from that. Again, these are things we are finding across India where landscape, there is a great insistence on landscape. Here, the really nice thing is that in addition to having the flora and fauna, being handled by a mali or a gardener or a professional florist. The staff is part of that initiative, so they have the responsibility of a particular tree or a particular shrub is that of the staff. So it also means that they are part of this whole green initiative. It is not just an isolated program which the top management is running on its own. Again, the choice of flowering is crucial. What flower to put, and whether it is water absorbing, whether it is carbon dioxide. So these are again crucial decisions to be made. This is again something that I'd seen when I was there, which impressed me. Mock drills. Again, recently in Mumbai, there was a small factory which had a small fire alarm because one of the AC components, and one of the reasons I think they succeeded in being able to, prevent any large damage to their capital equipment was because of these mock drills which their team had been conducting on a regular basis. So again, these are standard things, but the seriousness with which it is done in some organizations obviously behoves, and therefore when there is a time of danger, they're able to sort of accrue the benefits from it. So again, very simple things: fire safety techniques, first aid techniques, emergency handling techniques, and basically how to plan a good exit route in case there is a calamity. One of the other things that the Hindu did, this was again a few months ago, was as you know, a lot of the investment in any newspaper is in newsprint. At that point of time, the Hindu used to utilize 45 GSM of newsprint. They brought this down, again imported to a 42 GSM newsprint. Again, it sort of helped them substantially in terms of cost and obviously in terms of green. This is just the final slide. So the Hindu is, as you know, printed. It's an IFRA quality, adheres to IFRA standards, and they adhere to the ISO 126473. And these are some of the standards that they have followed at their particular plant. We were particularly impressed by it, and last year when we did have the PrintWeek India Green Awards, they were one of the shortlisted companies as a result of their performance in this. So this was the first case study of the webinar. I had to rush through this. We have a full-fledged version of this on our website, so you can log in and see this at greater detail. Because of time constraints, I really had to rush through this, but it's an impressive plant, and it's also worth spending some time to see what the initiatives are. The team over there at the Coimbatore plant are very open. They are willing to have conversations with whoever is keen to know more about how some of these initiatives have been driven. With that, I now shift our gaze to our first panelist. That's Mr. S N Venkatraman. He is, as some of you know, the Vice President Marketing with ITC Paperboards and Specialty Paper Division. He's been with ITC for 20 years since graduating into business administration. A lot of us know Venkatraman as Venki, and he's always been the voice of sanity in the paper and paperboard industry. And every time any of us have had any question to related to grain direction or what sort of pedigree of paper or paperboard to use, we have always turned to him for advice, whether it is on sustainability, whether it is on the paper business, or whether it is biomaterials. ITC is a member of the WWF GFTN and has attained FSC, COC, and FM certifications, and there's a drive to reach out to more eco-responsible customers, and which includes biodegradable and compostable packaging papers in its portfolio. I was recently at their plant in Telangana, where I got to see the work that they're doing with paper cups and the initiatives that they're doing in that particular vertical, and that was sort of an eye-opener and extremely illuminating. Over to S N Venkatraman, who will now make a short presentation on what ITC's initiatives are and what green quotient means to him. Over to Venkatraman.
Thanks, Ramu. Good afternoon to everyone. At the outset, we are happy to be associating with PrintWeek, CI Green Center, and Repro, my fellow panelists in this webinar on what is your green quota. The first question I think all of us want to answer is this a kind of gimmick about the green quotient, or what does it mean for a business? So how would you answer that? So at ITC, about 10 or 12 years back, we decided to answer it for ourselves. The content in we see ourselves as an Indian company and said that we have to contribute to the Indian economy, and it only doesn't mean financially, but also to the social and environmental capital. So restoring environmental capital is a very big theme in our company. The second thing, all of us now, live in mainly urban atmosphere and commute and go to work. And we know the impact of what is happening due to consumerism and standard of living. So quality of life is important, and if quality of life were important, it's going to impact businesses in some way. So you had a court judgment many years ago in the NCR Delhi region, which said that smog levels and particulate levels were fixed for air emissions, and many print industries actually had to shift outside Delhi. Now this is a phenomenon that you're going to see increasingly across. And although print, in most cases, the printing is classified as a green industry, it can become more greener than it is. It's green in relation to many other industries, including the industry from which paper comes from. So we are not classified as a green industry by the Department of Pollution Control or by any Ministry of Industry, but print is a green industry. So I think the CI Green Card captured it well when it says that to create an enduring society, businesses will need to devise a system where each and every act is inherently sustainable and restorative. So a bit about our company. So what are the macro impacts that follows from climate control? So, we are proud to be carbon positive, water positive, and solid waste recycling positive. And this is across the entire company and not only for the paperboards business. And how did this come about? It's because we followed the GRI kind of reporting, and all our actions are now tailored to that and coordinated centrally at the corporate level and also at the business level. The paper business contributes to the carbon positive nature of ITC. So we would conserve energy, but our hotels, our other factories all also use energy, and therefore there is carbon emitted to the atmosphere. But the incremental plantations that we do each year not only gives us fiber, but also helps to fix the carbon dioxide. So what is important is that as India grows, as your GDP grows, as your companies grow, you are going to have higher emissions. One is to reduce the intensity of these emissions, and next is to balance it in some way. And as a large company, because you're present in multiple businesses, the plantation side of the paper businesses helps us to more than balance the amount of carbon that we discharge to the atmosphere. Water positive, very similar to the case study in Hindu. So we do a lot of work around the factories and where our communities are, where we repair and restore the water bearing capacity of ponds, lakes, and other kind of water catchment areas which are there. And that is more than the water that all our factories consume. And incidentally, paper consumes a lot of water. So we are net water positive. So many of us know that, especially the soft drink companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, for example, their permissions to expand into some newer factories sometimes face objections. One was the recent case in Palakkad where I think Coca-Cola did not get the permission because groundwater levels are going down. So it's important that large business can do that. Maybe printing houses, if they go abroad, they would look at their own signature. But for paper business, it's very, very important. Otherwise, new paper capacity would be difficult. Solid waste recycling positive. We continue to make recycled boards. So we have our machines at Kovai and Bhadrachalam, and therefore we collect waste paper. There is no institutional mechanism in India for collection of the waste paper. We have started a well-being or a waste program, and that helps us to collect more waste than all the other solid waste that our factories discharge. So some of the highlights, we began our journey actually in the late 80s or early 90s when we began our plantation program. It's under three models, you can say: social forestry, where underprivileged tribals are helped; farm forestry, where commercial farming is done and gives us wood; and agroforestry, which is the most recent model. Many people believe that the available land for cultivation is limited, and therefore paper or fiber would have to compete with food. And in a country like India, that's a very big issue. Agroforestry combines food cash crops along with wood management. So what you do is you do intercropping of plantation woods like eucalyptus, casuarina, suhavul, along with other agri-cereal crops or crops like pepper, mirchi, and groundnuts, for example, which are grown in farms. So this has to be viable for a farmer, and that's the model that we have worked on to show the viability of such agroforestry in the Telangana and AP region. At our factories, we have energy management cells, so much in the same way that the case study showed that we do consume a lot of energy. Sorting activities, paper making activity would require any board, recycled boards require somewhere between 500 to 600 units per ton of wood. So there is a focus to conserve energy at each batch process and unit level. Elemental chlorine free. So we are the first to bring this technology into India. So chlorine bleaching is inherently a bit more toxic. So elemental chlorine free and ozone bleaching actually reduce the level of toxicity drastically and your water emissions therefore fall in line or are far ahead of the standards which are prescribed by the government. So more potable water for drinking, and you don't actually, in a kind of way, poison the well from which you take the water. So in 14-15, we recycle more than 99% of our generated waste in our factories. So we use lime, for example, in our process. So the burnt lime and the ash, which is there from a coal, actually get sent to cement plants and to brick making units. Then in terms of a product, we were one of the first to go in for the Forestry Stewardship Council. So there are many certification programs, and your Muthusezhiyan, who will represent CI Green Council, but CI also has a Greenco program. Greenco has a very operational focus. FSC has a bit of a product focus and has a trade linkage because the credit gets passed on. And for a printers or the main audience here, that's a bit important. So the type of paper that you use, as how sustainable it is also one of the factors, apart from operational factors, in measuring your green quotient. And where do we get the credit from? We have also been successful in getting some of our plantations come to the source of a credit. We also buy some imported wood pulp, which helps us to get the credit because there are more FSC areas outside India than within India. So if any brand owning company or if any printer wanted to buy papers, we could actually do the study outside our boundaries too and kind of measure what would be the impact. So life cycle assessment is an impact tool, and it can be used in order to measure the sustainability aspect of using a particular product. We are also members of the WWF, which actually was the first initiative that we did, and the Global Forestry Trade Network there spearheads a lot of the initiative around sustainability of forests and plantations. The environmental performance slide shows how progressively we improved our water usage aspects. So it is built into our operational plan each year. So when we sit each year on our planning, we look at what aspects of our operation can be compared with best measures or the golden measures that are available internationally, and then we try to reduce our usage of these resources. So air emissions have been going down, water intake has been going down, energy consumption has been going down, and in paper, we generate something called a black liquor, which we can use for energy, and we would actually be using about 40 to 45% of renewable energy sources within our operations, which is quite a high figure. ITC as a whole would have 40, we would be slightly higher at just 45%. We even invested in a wind farm of 35 to 40 kilowatt hour, but after the state separation here, that went into Andhra Pradesh, and currently it's not contributing to our renewable energy this one. So these are all some of the pitfalls. So we are a large company, we could afford to take some positions, we did certain investments, many of them are paid off, one or two are yet to pay off. Maybe the regulators and the people involved in energy management and authority have to realize. We live in a state called Telangana, which is actually energy deficient. So source reduction and lightweighting have been virtually assumed with us. So if you take the last 15 years, we were producing recycled boards which were about 1.5. We came to virgin boards, started with a moderate grade called the pack, and since then, as you can, bulk has been improving. So what helps bulk along with the improvement helps printer to act, and that's a reduction. So you pack more for the same weight of the board. Likewise, the certified product sales, as you can see, have been going up. But one aspect of the certified product sales going up is that it goes up where it's related to a foreign company operating in its footprint or for exports to foreign markets. It's not yet happened within the domestic economy. So how many Indian companies actually insist on a kind of sustainable paper or a certified paper is still something which is wide open. And that's one of the reasons for this webinars, to kind of spread the usage and to educate people on the standards. So on packaging indicators, for example, on replacing non-renewable resources. So we have taken some bets. So we are now experimenting with what's called emulsion coated boards. So these are basically water-based polymers which are grafted onto board. So you have seen that as far as existing packaging is concerned, the government comes out with new draft, the MOEF new draft of plastic waste management and handling rules. These cover not only plastic, these can also laminates and in combination with plastic. So emulsion coated boards for barriers which are relatively lower in oxygen and water vapor transmission can work for many food packaging applications, especially disposable food packaging applications. This is an area where we have come out with some barrier boards. Similarly, we have come out with bio-based boards. So PLA stands for polylactic acid, and it's a board which is actually totally compostable. So we have made cups out of it, and we have made disposable cartons and trays. But there are cost aspects about PLA, and this is an area where the technology of bio-based polymers is increasing very fast. So currently, again, the adoption is mainly in disposable food packaging. But you have a state like Goa, for example, which has given an incentive to people who pack in biodegradable packaging. So in Goa, the VAT on packaging, which is biodegradable, is 2% lower than the VAT which is non-degradable. So that's an incentive. How many people and brand owners and will change will have to be seen with time. But I think they have started implementing the regulation recently. The regulations came out in 2012, but I think they're giving teeth to the legislation now. And as it bites the bottom line of some of the companies, maybe there will be more experimentation or adoption of biodegradable packaging. So other indicators in our journey in sustainable packaging, recycled content. Ramu visited our Bolaram plant where we make the poly-coated barrier boards. And we have, and poly trims normally are difficult to process as recycled waste because of the poly content. So what we did is we did an investment in our Kowai board, Kowai plant which makes recycled paper, and we produce a new product. The poly trims which are made in, which are generated as waste in our plant are as good as virgin fiber. So we introduced something called a drum pulper, which could help us to handle the poly waste, and we created a new product which is called Neo White Bliss, which is pretty high bulk, and performance characteristics very close to virgin boards. And this has been launched, and if any of you brush your teeth with Oral-B toothbrushes, the board or the blister card which is used there is now Neo White Bliss, and I'm happy to share that with you. So it's a business success, marrying a sustainability and green aspect of a business. So I want to tell everyone in the audience that if you are a bit innovative and if you're a bit creative, you can actually achieve business success out of these. Because there are many end-use companies which have their own standards today and have their own scorecard and guidelines, which are actively seeking such innovations. In waste reduction and recycling, you know, we began the well-being out of waste, WOW as we call it, with 100 tons collection, and today we collect close to 26,000 tons. There's a little bit of things that we assembled from what a printer can do to go green. Next slide, please. And these have been covered a bit in the case study, and I'm sure Mr. Jadhav will cover it more in detail when he speaks. So on energy, water, and waste, there are many things that a printer can do. And on employee management, which is also covered, safety and hygiene and health would be very, very important. Even asset and design of the plant, I think, would become very, very important in future. Many printers are expanding, so you know our GDP is expected to double every 5 years now. And most of the print customers that we have today, I'm sure, would be looking at new facilities. And many of these can be built into the design of the new facilities, especially when you have new asset through a plant, and that's where you can do. About 6-7 years ago, in association with the CII Green Business Council, we actually started a green check program, but maybe we were a bit ahead of the time. And I'll leave Mr. Muthusezhiyan, who's also there on the panel, to explain a bit more about what services can be provided by them. But that CII is willing to provide a separate set of services to the small and medium printer on his energy, waste, and water management, and to improve the green quotient. So what a printer can do out of the plant would cover the energy, water, waste, and the operational aspects of the plant. It would cover the same. It would, and things and solutions that he is using, and what in terms of being more sustainable. Paper would also come in, and to the extent that there is some certified paper which is being used in India, Ganga is being cleaned, so it would affect all the industrial units around Ganga. It can lead to some innovation in the business model, sometimes and existing business. Otherwise, you could be shut down tomorrow for some change in the regulation. And if you're a publicly held company, yes, you get probably some brownie points for that. So the Green Core rating system is a more comprehensive system, and probably more suited to very many Indian verticals. And it is something which has evolved standards for print too. And since there is no print body with evolved standards, and there's a lot of greenwashing around, I think Green Core would be an ideal standard to kind of adopt. And that's something that we recommend. Thank you. for giving me this time to share our views.
Thank you, Venkatraman. Thank you so much. We got a fairly good insight into the We've got a fairly good insight into the steps that ITC has undertaken in the Green Drive, and we therefore also thank you for supporting and being a vital partner for the PrintWeek India Awards Green. This was what had happened last year. This was our jury panel for 2014. And as you can see, we have the list of the jury members who had participated in 2014. In the green category last year, these were the shortlisted entries. So you can see it's a combination of units all over the country. It's a combination of publishing houses, packaging, as well as wide format printing. And the winner in the category was quite deservedly Repro India. And I think through the Repro example now, which Vijay Jadhav will share with us, we'll probably get a greater sense of what green exactly entails in India. We've seen a bit of that with the Hindu. We saw through your explanation about ITC, and now finally with the Repro India case study. So I'll just quickly introduce Vijay Jadhav. He's a graduate from the Government Institute of Printing Technology, GIPT in Mumbai. He's currently the plant head at Repro India. He's also led the FOGRA implementation project, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Repro India was probably the first FOGRA certified printer in India. Today, as most of you are aware, they're the single largest book printer in India. They have a huge amount of domestic production as well as exports. They have 3 centers, one in Navi Mumbai in Mahape, which is where Vijay is right now, another export unit in Surat, and a 3rd unit in Chennai. Vijay has also been and sort of critical head of the green initiative, and in terms of the fulfillment center and the reduction of paper inventory. He will share his presentation with us now, and his focus area is essentially the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle, the 3 concepts that Repro follows and believes in. Over to you, Vijay.
Thank you, Ramu.
Yep.
My fellow speaker and honored e-delegates, good afternoon. Printing industry was synonymous with pollution, but of the late it has started changing. In this session, I would like to share with you about Repro's Grow Green initiative. Next slide, please. How did Go Green initiative started in Repro? It has started due to various triggers, that is external as well as internal. Next, please. Some of the overseas customers started looking green printing suppliers using recycled FSC, PFC certified paper, having ISO 14001 certification and FOGRA certification. Increasing cost of raw material was challenged, and in pursuit of green initiative and continuous improvement plan, we had to incur some cost, but in turn, we saved a lot through various initiatives like IPA reduction and ink optimizer, which we covered during the presentation. Similarly, there were requirements from the government about the statutory audit. So during this period, we realized that going green won't be an option. It is the future, and decided to focus on this area. Next, please. To be green, one does not have to invest heavily in systems or processes. No need to hire outside consultant. The key to green printing and sustainability of products and services is to develop an appropriate mindset and instilling a green consciousness in each employee of the organization, right from the security guard. For example, switching off an unwanted light makes a huge impact on the environment. One of the best Go Green catchphrase is reduce, reuse, and recycle. This is how we achieved it. We completely stopped using isopropyl alcohol in that section. We got reduction in wash-up solution by using automatic blanket wash-up device on web as well as some of the shifted machine. We reduced IPA in shifted by monitoring and measuring the use of IPA and by using right type of font solution. Reducing waste paper not only cut unproductive paper cost, but also makes a very real contribution to improving environment credential. By using paper sheeting machine for sheeting paper to the required format from reel, that played a key role in reducing paper waste. Saving of just 1 to 2 millimeter of paper has made big impact. Similarly, the IPA consumption in the sheetfed was reduced drastically, and you can see in this diagram, we got around 20% reduction in IPA. Next, please. Another one is a reduction in blanket cleaning time. By standardizing the complete compatible fountain solution and ink for web offset machine, we reduce blanket cleaning frequency. We developed specific ink and font combination in sheetfed section for printing on uncoated paper. Because printing uncoated paper was challenging in sheetfed, ink was piling on the impression cylinder. With this, we reduced the impression cylinder cleaning frequency, which resulted in saving of chemical and reduction in CO2 emission. Another one is the energy conservation. The good example is we replace fluorescent tube lights with LED. We replace mercury lamp with metal halides. We maintain a AC temperature at around 24 degrees Celsius in the press room. We utilize maximum natural resource of light in the print finishing, binding, and packing by reconstructing the print finishing and packing area. You can see this picture. Earlier we were using exhaust fan, but by just replacing it with open window, we save on energy as well as on ambience. Similarly, in this slide also, you can see the alternative source of light. Instead of using electricity, we use daylight. This is what I was saying, that we replaced fluorescent tube with LED. Earlier we were using 2 fluorescent tube lights in one case. Now we are using only one. This is the interlocking mechanism of machine. With this, we saved on unnecessary wastage of electricity for creating air. Next slide, please. This is the initiative taken by the shop floor people, our worker, due to the awareness that the label on each switch about ABCD, the way they want the light, they are switching on it. Reducing in water uses by controlling water flow from main pipeline at a centralized location and displaying monthly chart of per person water consumption made huge difference in water saving. Similarly, by reusing sheet-fed plates in case of reprint through proper storage, we generated saving of around 2 lakhs liters of water along with the chemical and electricity saving. Similarly, we are using, this is the picture of our reused plate keeping area. Earlier, we were not having proper way, but by utilizing the proper space and keeping in proper condition. Earlier, we were using manual process for plate cleaning. We invested very marginally in semi-automatic plate cleaning machines, so we have reduced drastically in every time of reused plate. Through sewage water treated, that is a STP, treated water is used for gardening purpose and excess treated water sent to TTC CTP. Use of recycle and bagasse-based paper. Repro encouraged clients for uses of recycled or bagasse-based paper by provided merits and demerits of the recycled paper to client to gain confidence. We modified fountain solution filtration system, which has ensured that the environment is less polluted. Our web offset team worked very closely with the maintenance, quality assurance, and procurement team for developing the specific ink so that we can save on electricity, LPG gas, and reduce the wastage of paper. We drastically reduce the paper waste and also make ready time by replacing conventional plate punching and bending with vision punching. That is a camera-based plate punching or bending system. By this, required registration values are achieved in less number of sheets. Similarly, through SIP3, that is direct transfer of SIP3 data from prepaste to press, the required color values are achieved in less number of FBD sheets. By using ink optimizer software, we saved around 5 to 15% in multicolor, which resulted in saving of around 2 tons of ink per year. This is an example of how we are using soft proof instead of the printed color dummy for matching the print. And another picture is of camera-based plate punching machine. Repro India got certified with ISO 14000. As a part of ISO 14001 implementation process, plant undergone few changes, which are as follows. One is the installation of sewage water treatment plant, that is STP, with ETP for treating sewage as well as industrial waste. We got membership of TTC, that is Common Effluent Treatment Plant, where excess treated water which remains after recycling, we are using for garden purpose. Repro is also a member of TTC WMA, that is a Thane Transcript Waste Management Association, for disposing solid hazardous waste. As a part of Green Initiative and global trend, we initiated FSC and PFC certification, where paper is either produced from the log from certified forest or post-consumer waste. These are some of the pictures of the certification of ISO 14001 and FSC. This is the photograph of our ATP STP plant. Next, please. The company has realized the importance of green belt around the manufacturing. We are using efficient way of delivery routes to shorten the travel time. Similarly, we have installed print finishing equipment such as UV coating, lamination, and another finishing equipment in-house to reduce the multiple handling and fuel consumption on transportation. We are taking various efforts to control the CO2 emission. We have celebrated World Environment Day by planting approximately 150 sampling last year at our Mahape plant in this last year. Due to plantation and maintenance of the garden, aesthetic view had changed with increased oxygen built up and reduced CO2 in the atmosphere. You can see the surrounding area of our plant for these pictures. Another most important initiative which least focused and neglected in our industry is machine maintenance. Through regular preventive and plant maintenance, we ensured less paper waste and lower energy consumption, which resulted in reduction of CO2 emission. I think I exceeded my presentation by a few minutes. I apologize for the same. Finally, I would like to sum up with the presentation with one best quote I have received recently. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestor, we borrow it from our children. Thank you for patience listening. All to you, Ramu.
Yeah. Thank you, Vijay. That was enlightening. What was really interesting is the manner in which you've sort of undertaken a lot of and streamlined the processes at Repro to facilitate green. And I think some of the initiatives can be of great importance to medium and small size print and packaging enterprises. Small things due to poor maintenance, material handling, skilled manpower, or sometimes just misplaced emphasis. With that, I shift focus to our third panelist for the webinar. That's N. Muthu. His focus area is to some extent policy and implementation, and essentially how printing and packaging unit can create a sustainability report, evaluate environmental performance, and also look at the small and incremental steps that an organization can do this by. I'll quickly introduce N. Muthu. He's an engineer by profession, and he's a postgraduate in energy management. He's also an energy and environmental sustainability expert at the CII Godrej GBC. Currently, Mr. Muthu is involved with promoting the mission on sustainable growth and green core rating system in the Indian industry. In the past, he has executed several national and international projects on energy efficiency, climate change, and life cycle assessment. He's created the presentation that you're about to, go through, especially for this webinar and specially focused for the printing and packaging industry. Over to you, Mr. Muthu.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Ramu. Good afternoon to everybody. It's really my pleasure to present how printing industry can go green in this particular webinar being conducted by PrintWeek India and ITC jointly. So I also thank PrintWeek India and ITC for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Venkatraman presented about the case study of ITC, how they have been doing the sustainability initiatives in a big way. So one of the achievements of ITC units, the paper division, are the gold rating by Bhadrachalam unit and the platinum rating, which is the highest level of rating for the core unit through the green core rating. So I'm basically working in promoting the green company rating program in the industry, which includes all sectors, right from paper, or it may also include printing industry. So the guidelines for the green core rating is it's sector neutral, and then any sector can implement, then adopt, and then they can improve their green performance. So I'm representing the Green Business Center, where we are mainly working in promoting energy efficiency, renewable energy, and green buildings in India. Mainly, my focus is on the green company rating, where we are right now working with more than 140 industries, and then out of 140, already 48 companies achieved the rating ranging from bronze level to platinum level. So in my presentation, I'm going to cover what is the importance of green, why businesses should go for green, and then what are the benefits of going for green. And green is not just planting trees, it's much more than that, where we have seen the case studies from ITC, Repro India, and Hindu. So they have addressed a variety of areas overall of the environmental sustainability aspect. So how businesses can pursue green. So those are aspects which I'm going to cover quickly in my presentation. Before going to that, let me also give some background why, what is the importance of going green at a global level. So in this particular slide, you can see there are two lines. One is in green, which is the biocapacity of the entire globe, and the other line is the red, which is the actual footprint with respect to ecological impact on the globe. So just to make it very simpler, biocapacity is nothing but whatever the actual resources which is available in the earth to meet our requirement. For example, we need food, we need primary energy like coal, oil, gas, and then in the process we also emit a lot of waste. It may be waste to the atmosphere, like going to the air as carbon dioxide or salts, NOx, those kind of waste, or it can be the wastewater which is going to the water bodies, or it can be solid waste which is generated and then being sent to the landfill. So the earth has a capacity to provide the resources what we need, and also it has a capacity to recycle the waste which is emitted into all streams of the body. So in the previous slide, you'll see that the biocapacity of the earth is much lower compared to the actual footprint. So that is the major reason why we should all look for green. When you look for green, then definitely we look for resource conservation and how to utilize the resources optimum without compromising the quality or without compromising the growth of the entire globe. The second slide, you'll find how this is for India. So CII, with the support of Global Footprint Network USA, did this study in the year 2008. So for India, the difference between the actual biocapacity which is available with us and actual footprint, if you see, there is always a difference. Our biocapacity is always less, whereas the difference between footprint and biocapacity is increasing over a period of time. That is because of more and more urbanization, and then less productive land which is available for producing food, or the actual natural resources which is available is also dwindling down, and the forest coverage, which is there overall in the country, is also reducing, whereas the footprint is trying to increase with respect to GDP. So because of that, there is a difference between the biocapacity and the ecological footprint. So now a company or a business, if they go for green, definitely it is going to make a lot of sense for that company, because any green initiative is going to give benefit in terms of bottom line improvement. When we say green, energy efficiency or water conservation or waste reduction or material consumption reduction, so all these are all green. So when you reduce waste, then of course it is going to reduce our cost of operation. So the first point is like when a company is going to pursue green, definitely it is going to make sense, and then it is going to increase their profitability, and globally they will become more competitive. And of course, the second important requirement or the advantage of going green is the company or the businesses will have a good corporate green image, because that is the need of the hour, or more and more customers or consumers looking for more green product. For example, now organic food is becoming more popular. The cost of organic food is also very high compared to normal food. So some kind of a similar thing is happening in different field. Something will be happening in the printing industry also in future. So corporate image is also very important. So that is going to be another benefit of pursuing green. And of course, the other major advantage of going green is there are more and more regulations going to come with respect to environmental areas or the sustainability related areas. So definitely, if we start pursuing green today, then definitely we'll be better prepared to meet the future regulations, or we'll be better prepared to meet future market requirement. Just I mentioned about the organic food, so the similar will happen. So these are some of the benefits of going green, and the businesses should ensure that they start looking green as part of their business strategy. And of course, coming to the printing industry, generally the printing industry is not considered so much as green, because the alternates like today email, smartphones, and Kindle, which is used for reading books, so is considered, these things are considered as more green than printing a book and then using the book. So that's the I mean, when you go back and see why it is considered not so green, the basic raw material is paper. So whenever we say paper, people always think that people cut a lot of trees and then made paper, so it is non-green. And of course, with respect to printing, there are several equipments used, and then through consumables, we also use a lot of chemicals, inks, and these are all having a lot of toxics or VOC substances. So there also, I mean, people think that it is not so green. And of course, if you see the entire supply chain, right from the forest, manufacturing of the paper, then transporting to different locations, and finally printing, and then packaging, and then when it is finally delivered, the entire supply chain, there are a lot of transportation, a lot of packing used in the system. So I mean, that is also having impact on the overall environment and polluting the supply chain. So that's the reason why people have a perception like paper is not, printing is not so green. But definitely, if you go into the details, it's totally different story. If somebody is going to have a paper which is from sustainable forestry or 100% recycled paper, or somebody is going to implement more environment-friendly chemicals for their process and more energy-efficient processes, and then more efficient supply chain, then definitely a printing industry can become a green one. So for any printing industry, it is very important to look both business perspective and also the sustainable or environmental sustainability aspects also. So I think Mr. Venkatraman has covered a lot with respect to this particular slide. So how a printing industry can look themselves as a green through their product, through their process, and then supply chain. Even the presentation of Hindu and Repro India also talked about the process, product, and then supply chain. So let me give few examples with respect to process, how a printing industry in their process become more green. Energy efficiency, of course, Repro India also presented more about various initiatives taken by them. So we can look for more energy efficient air conditioning system. Today, best air conditioners available with the lowest consumption of energy per TR of output. And then LED lights are becoming order of the day. So almost 80% of the savings is being achieved by converting a conventional tube light with a LED light. So that's a great opportunity. And then today, most of the businesses, most of the industry, they are looking LED as an option. And of course, the gadgets like variable frequency drives for pumps, fans is becoming order of the day, and then it is giving huge savings like 30, 40, 50% in their equipment power consumption. So these are all some of the major initiatives or opportunities available with respect to energy efficiency. These are very little, but there are several more opportunities available in conserving energy. Then of course, waste reduction is another major aspects. Many companies through the ISO 14000 initiatives, they have been focusing on waste reduction, first monitoring what are the waste generated, how it can be reduced, and then what are the alternates. So that is becoming a practice in most of the industries, including the printing industry. But of course, water is another resource which is becoming very difficult to get in, especially most of the printing industries are in cities. All the cities, water is a major issue, so we are paying a lot of money for getting the water. So definitely rainwater harvesting within their facility is excellent option where we can recharge the ground, or we can collect the rainwater and then increase the use of rainwater so that the dependence on the fresh water is reduced. And of course, all the industries, the treatment of wastewater is becoming compulsory. And then once you treat the wastewater, and the wastewater can be used for process applications or can be used for gardening purpose or flushing in the toilet. So that is going to reduce a lot of freshwater consumption. So several companies, they reduce their water consumption up to 50–60% because of treating the wastewater and then recycling it in the process and for gardening and toilet. But of course, another major issue is the air emission. I mean, the government is also coming up with a lot of stringent rules in terms of emissions. The particulate emission from these stacks are all going to be less than 50 ppm. So it's very important for a company to look into the air emissions and then try to reduce that. And then today, apart from the energy efficiency, renewable energy also becoming more and more popular in the industry. Of course, the government is also taking a lot of initiatives in promoting renewable energy in India. The previous government has a target of about 20,000 megawatt of solar PV by 2022, but when the new government came in, and then they revised from 20,000 to 1 lakh megawatt of solar PV by 2022. So that's the big target. Apart from the solar, 60,000 megawatt of wind, and then about 15,000 megawatt of hydro and biomass are planned. So almost close to 2 lakh megawatt of energy is being planned from renewable energy by the government. So through these initiatives, several state governments also having a very favorable policy, investor-friendly policy in most of the states, and many installations on solar PV is happening in most of across the country. And again, to give some idea how a printing company can go for solar energy is, they can utilize their solar, rooftop, and then they can install solar panels. For example, to get 1 kilowatt of electricity, you need 10 square meter area of roof. So once you have that, then definitely it's possible to do it. So we have seen some of the small and medium industries having 20 kilowatt, 25 kilowatt, or 30 kilowatt capacity solar panel. And again, it is integrated with the grid, so there is no requirement of using battery, because throughout the day we are using the energy in the plant or in the printing industry. So whatever we are generating through solar, it will offset our electricity board power consumption. So state like Maharashtra, the power tariff is about 8 rupees to 9 rupees. So definitely it is making a lot of business sense. And typically the investment for a smaller capacity like 5 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt, it ranges from 80,000 to 1 lakh per kilowatt. So that's the typical investment. So the payback period is about 4 to 5 years. Again, if the tariff is very high, then it can be less than 4 years also. But the life of the solar, PV is 15 to 20 years. So definitely, it's worth to implement solar PV in their rooftop. But apart from having our own rooftop solar, today there are several innovative business models are emerging in the industry. Several, private power producers, solar power producers or wind power producers, they have a tie-up with the individual companies, and then we can have a third-party purchase agreement. For example, if you want to have 10,000 units per month as electricity from solar, we can have a long-term contract of about 10 years or 15 years, and these third-party service providers are ready to supply power at lower than the electricity board tariff. So we have seen many companies, they've signed a contract which is 1 rupee or 50 paise less than the electricity board tariff. But again, in the long run, electricity board tariff is going to increase multifold, whereas the solar PV, the operating cost is almost nil. So it is going to be same. So in future perspective, it is very, very attractive if you go for a third-party purchase of renewable energy. For the next slide, we are talking about the Green Co. Mr. Venkatraman also mentioned about the Green Company Rating System, which is again a holistic rating program where it includes 10 different parameters of on green and environmental sustainability as part of assessment. It starts from energy efficiency, water, waste, material, life cycle assessment, product stewardship. So multiple aspects of green are included as part of assessment process. It's a very, it was developed with the support of about 120 industrial experts. It took almost a year for CII to come with the guidelines. And in the last 3 years, we have been promoting this in the industry. So it's more and more industries are going for this rating because of the benefits they are seeing from implementing this rating. So by implementing the rating, companies are improving their systems and systems, whatever they are doing, presently doing. So it's helping them to improve their systems. So because of that, they get benefit. And the second aspect is the performance. So they're able to reduce their resources more and more compared to before implementation of Green Co. So because of these two benefits, more companies are going for the rating. Next slide, please. So by now, these are the major areas where a Green Co company can become an excellent in terms of their own operations. For example, the Green Co company can become a world-class energy efficient units because of their systematic approach towards implementing energy conservation. But also there is a requirement to benchmark themselves with their peers at the national and international level. So because of that, they are forced to improve their performance in different equipments and overall plant power consumption. So they achieve the status of world-class energy efficiency. And Green Co rating also helps companies to become water positive. ITC is one of the excellent companies where they're already water positive, carbon neutral company, and then waste recycling positive. So all these excellent aspects are included as part of the Green Co rating. So the company which is pursuing Green Co is definitely become a world class in terms of majority of the areas, and this is going to help them to be more competitive at the world market. So that's the big advantage of these kind of ratings. And of course, this will also help companies to consume, reduce their consumption of raw material, consumables like ink or generation of waste, and that is going to improve their bottom line. And apart from their own operations, the Green Co rating is also focusing on supply chain. So how are we going to reduce the logistics and optimize the route and reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and diesel consumption for transporting the material? And how are we going to educate the truck operators for a better and efficient operation of their trucks? And how are we going to reduce the packing material in the supply chain? So all those aspects will be covered under green supply chain. But of course, we're also going to get the product stewardship initiatives also part of the Green Co rating, where as a proactive manufacturer, sustainable company. So how are we going to help our customers to improve their performance? That's the focus of the product stewardship. Having seen that, the next slide we are talking about different companies which are already part of this rating program. ITC is one, Tamil Nadu Newsprint is another company, and then several paper companies, and several cement, engineering, automobile, multinational companies, all are part of this rating program. The first 10 companies which completed their assessments about 2 years back, after the 1 year performance, they reported a savings of about 168 million rupees per annum. So that's excellent. That's the benefit achieved by 10 companies, average about 1.5 crores per company. So what the underlying message is, green makes business sense. So whatever we are trying to do as green is definitely going to improve our bottom line. So to sum up, what should be the approach for the printing industry going green? So I just wanted to highlight what are the things immediately a company can take up. The first and foremost requirement for any company to go for green is the commitment from the top management. I'm sure a lot of senior people are attending this program. So I think the commitment from you is very important in terms of implementing and being successful in green. The second important requirement is how are we going to create awareness among the employees, and how are we going to involve them as part of implementing green? So that's the second most important requirement. Without involvement of the employees, I mean right from workers, supervisors, engineers, and management level people, we will not be successful. So that's the second most requirement. We need to create awareness and involve people. And of course, we need some specific training programs in different areas. So we may be good in one or two areas, but green means, there are several things like life cycle assessment or better waste management, material conservation, new technologies. So training of employees is also very important. So it should be a regular practice. And how are we going to involve and then train the people? That's the third important requirement. So and fourth is, if you're not monitoring, then we cannot reduce our consumption. So monitoring is going to be an important factor. So how are you going to monitor our energy consumption, water consumption, waste, material, consumables, those kind of aspects? Even transportation. Many people started calculating what is the consumption of diesel per ton kilometer of material transported. So those kind of metrics has to be used. For example, in Repro India, I saw water consumption per person is monitored. So similarly, the waste generation per ton of output or energy consumption per ton of output. So all these aspects can be monitored, and that is going to help us to understand, and then that itself will give a lot of insights how to optimize and then improve our performance. And once we monitor, then it's very important to set target for individual areas. So next year I want to reduce my waste generation by 5% or 10%. How do we increase my throughput without additional consumption of raw material? So those kind of targets we need to set. And once we set the target and then look for action plan and implement, and definitely over a period of time you will become a green printing industry. So with this, I conclude my presentation. Thanks for the opportunity. Now over to Mr. Ramu.
Thank you, Mr. Muthu. That was quite illuminating. It's wonderful to see the journey that you have undertaken and begun in India, and the fact that we have ITC and TNPL plant in Karur in Tamil Nadu, which are sort of taken bold initiatives in this. It's also interesting you spent a lot of time discussing solar energy. We're finding, again in Tamil Nadu we found book units like Lovely, etc., who've invested enormously in that technology and trying to sort of accrue some benefit from that. So thank you once again. That sort of concludes the three panelists. We've been asking some of our attendees and delegates to send in their questions. A few of those have been coming in. We're just sort of crunching the questions, and then we'll have them played back, and because the questions are for specific panelists. In the meantime, I'm informed that we have Dilip Sawant of Soham Technologies, who is with us. It's interesting because Dilip Sawant is part of a Mumbai-based organization, and they have been working or developing a system to dispose UV lamps as per the guidelines set by Central Pollution Control Board, that is the CPCB, in this part of the country. So basically, it's a majority of printers in India today, as you're aware, use UV lamps for curing. However, because of its sort of high mercury content, excessive and improper usage of UV lamps, it's a huge health hazard. So the disposal of the lamps are an equally sort of crucial and critical part of the entire production process. It would be probably interesting in a couple of minutes, and then we can go to the questions from the delegates, what the process is that Mr. Sawant and Soham Technologies follows for UV lamps. Because if it can be replicated in Western India, I suspect it can be replicated in other parts of India as well. Dilip Sawant, are you there, Mr. Sawant? Okay, I think we seem to have lost him. So in case we catch hold of him later, then we'd probably return to him. In the meanwhile, I think we have the first sort of set of questions that are there. Venkatraman, this question's for you. This is something we also discussed when we were at your unit in Telangana, that why is it that, traditionally the print and packaging industry is perceived to be anti-green, it's supposed to be environmentally unfriendly, and then there is an enormous campaign by the mobile phone companies, the cell phone companies, the internet companies, and this whole migration of, to non-paper. So why, if you can hear me, why is it that the print industry is perceived to be anti-green and environmentally non-friendly? We got a really good sense of, today from the presentations that there is obviously this is not the case. So your take on it, and how can we as an industry sort of, change this perception?
Thanks, Ramu.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the major reason why the print industry probably is perceived to be anti-green should be the paper industry. Because today there's a popular perception that paper is made by cutting trees, and cutting trees is very sinful, and it's anti-green and so on. But I think there's another reason which was touched upon by Mithu. Typically, I think print industries use a lot of chemicals. There are smells and odors which emanate from them. The smaller ones earlier at least weren't very hygienic or clean, and ink smells because you use solvent-based ink and resin-based ink and it smells a lot. I think that's responsible for the popular perception that print industry is a bit unfriendly. But if you go by industrial classification, I don't think states in India classify print as anti-green. In fact, states classify them as green. Both in Uttaranchal and in Himachal Pradesh, print industries are actually allowed in those hill states because they are relatively green. And their what should I say? Their ecological footprint or the environmental footprint is lower than that of many other industries. Nobody has actually done an LCA, life cycle assessment, if I might say so. But there is a lot of popular studies and evidence available on the web that just the energy of the connected devices which are sleeping and of the servers which search engines like Google and others provide a service with, including this wonderful webinar which is being done through a network.
Sure.
They all consume a lot of energy. The fraternity with its suppliers and customers to actually kind of fight this image problem, if I might say so.
Sure.
So paper industry always has been perceived as slightly less green. There are people who use bagar, there are people who use agri-fiber. We recycle paper and we use recovered paper quite a lot in our process. But you still need virgin fiber. So as long as that equation remains, I think paper industry will continue to use a lot of wood-bearing fiber. Some of it will be virgin and some of it more will be recovered as we go along.
Sure.
And that print industry also has to find a way. So you use cleaner technologies, I think print industry will change its image over a period of time. And many of them were highlighted between your Hindu case study and what Repro have done so far and what Muthu has promised for the future.
Sure. Okay, now this is a question for Vijay Jadhav. So Vijay, if you can hear me, I mean, a lot of people argue that what Repro has done, what, the Hindu case study is the bigger players, the 300 crores, 500 crore companies. But how can small and, medium-sized packaging enterprises actually utilize some of the, methods and techniques that you have highlighted in your case study, your presentation, Vijay? That it's okay for the big companies to do it because they have the budgets and the, economies of scale. But how can the smaller sized print and packaging companies do the same thing?
Yeah, thank you, Ramu.
Yep.
As I mentioned in my presentation, that this is not the luxury of only big printer having heavy machines, heavy-duty machines, multicolor machines. Even the small printer who is having one single color machines or monocolor machines, everyone, I will give the example that everyone is having at least one printing machine and they are using the rubber rollers. I will give the example of ours. We were using the locally re-rubberized rollers, and by using those rollers, our water consumption was more compared to the OEM supplier or good quality rubber roller. During the process, we realized that if we use good quality of rubber roller or even the blankets, we can reduce the water consumption. Simultaneously, we can reduce the ink consumption because more water means more ink, and that leads to the emulsification. And when there is a emulsification, you'll have to increase the heat or the air raise temperature, means more energy. So by investing into proper material, we can contribute to this initiative.
Sure, sure.
Similarly, just by changing the mindset of the shop floor workers, just by creating the awareness, we will get the benefit. We have experienced this on certain machines. In fact, few of the initiatives we got from shop floor, like the saving in the shop floor lighting or reusing the plate for reprint by keeping it proper way. That initiative, that input we have got from the shop floor team.
Sure.
To the CFT and other process.
Sure.
I think each and every printer can contribute into this. No need of having the multicolor machines or having big setup.
Right. Right. Mr. Muthu, yeah, thank you, Vijay. We have another question about why, Mr. Muthu, this I think is directed towards you. That if mobile phones, internet connectivity have caught the imagination, I think the question is also about how IT has caught the imagination of policymakers in India traditionally. why has the same not happened in the case of green energy with specific reference to industry?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Ramu.
Yep.
I think the kind of attention the IT has taken from the policymakers' point of view, when you compare it with the green energy, it's less. But again, if you see the recent developments, definitely the focus on green energy is becoming more and more. So the previous government, I also briefly touched in the presentation about the target set in terms of solar PV is about 100,000 megawatt of electricity by 2022. So what is happening now, this Jawaharlal Nehru solar mission, which was the actual program of the previous government, is taken up very seriously with the new government, and then the higher targets are given. So that's the one aspect where definitely the government is looking this as a major source of meeting the power requirement. And only thing is, because when the volume of renewable energy installations are going to increase, then there is going to be more competition among the suppliers, and there is going to be less in terms of investment. For example, about 6-7 years back, the investment for 1 megawatt of solar used to be about 17 or 18 crores per megawatt, which is very, very high. Nobody will afford to implement. But today, in the last about 4 or 5 years, because of the competition, because of the more volume, and because of the proactive policy of various state government, the cost has come down to about 7 to 8 crore per megawatt. So maybe in a few years time period, it will be as comparable with the conventional coal-based power plant. So then we'll achieve the grid parity also. Definitely, I mean, the focus is there, but in the near future, you'll find more focus on the green energy.
Sure. I think the next question also looks to be directed at you, Mr. Muthu. This seems to be taking off from one of the slides you had. In fact, 2 of your slides on solar energy and the usage of photovoltaic cells for that. So I think it's touching upon the renewable energy program and policy in India, and in what direction. So I think if I can just add to this question a couple of supplementary questions. One is, where are you seeing solar energy or renewable energy in India over the next time span of say 5 years, 10 years, and will the print and printing, paper, packaging industry have a part to play in that, from the point of view of a green core company? Yeah.
Correct. I mean, it's almost a continuation of my previous the answer for my previous question.
Correct.
So again, if you see the target, if you see the actual implementation in terms of solar PV, we are much ahead of the target. And for example, the grid parity in terms of investment and tariff, the actual plan is to achieve by 2022 by going for 1 lakh megawatt of solar power. But whereas it's already very close to grid parity. So maybe in next 2 years time period, you'll find the investing in the solar or investing on a conventional power plant will be same. But only one disadvantage with respect to renewable energy is that it's a seasonal or it is a intermittent one. For example, when you go for a solar, even though you have 1 megawatt of load, the 1 megawatt can generate almost 800 kilowatt or 850 kilowatt only during the daytime. So in the night time, still we have the issue of using the conventional source of power. So that's the only one difference. For example, wind is a seasonal one. Apart from these two issues, I don't think any issues in terms of using renewable energy. But of course, now the better storage technology is coming into the market. So people are trying to use the battery storage, which store during the energy during the daytime, and then it can be used in the nighttime. So definitely, I mean, the technology and then the increased amount of usage of the solar and other renewable sources is going to attract more and more investment. It's going to reduce the cost, and it is going to increase the share of the renewable sources. That's what I see. I see that.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Muthu. I think we have one final question, which Venkatraman, I think this is for you. It's coming from a Training and Printing Institute in Coimbatore. The question is on behalf of one of the faculty members, Lakshmi Priya. Any theme for doing a project on green printing?
Well, we have a unit in Karamadai, which is very near Coimbatore, and many of the initiatives that we have done in our Kovai plant, as we call it, since this student is from Coimbatore, it is something that we can probably organize as a trip and would like to showcase to the students. So, question on what tips, we could take them through all the measures that we have done, apply. It's something we would like to engage with any college and any set of students, and that is something we'd like to engage in the future.
Sure. Sure. I think I'll just squeeze in one final question, and I'll keep it short. Is that, with the forecast for packaging industry, particularly in India, in terms of the growth being enormous, is there anything that our industry needs to do and learn from the mistakes, say from the West, in terms of innovative technologies? This is a question that has come in from Jai Ganesh. That with the sort of boom in packaging that we are, anticipating in India over the next 5 to 10 years, is there something that we should be doing in terms of green preparedness with usage of innovative technologies? Again, you touched upon some of it, but are we going to see a sort of, substantial change in the way paperboard is being manufactured, or any technology on that?
No, paperboard technology has always been driven towards better resource usage and also through better yield of the final product. So if you take the last 20, 25 years, all the technologies in what a paper machine does in producing a paper, it produces at lower energy, it runs at higher speeds, it's more automated, it produces more consistent paper quality, there are lower wastages. Okay, the drives are all much more efficient now. They are more silent. So operational safety and health is also ensured. That's been the route. Now, when you expand very fast, what would happen is some of the downstream waste, recycling, and collection activities may not keep pace. And more than the West, that is something that you see happening in China. So if you take the paper industry in China, which is roughly 10 times or roughly 8-9 times the size of the Indian industry, as China has expanded, they had their existing paper mills as well as their newer paper operations coming down. If some of you have been catching up on news, there is an old as in a 10, 15-year-old Chinese manufacturing facility in a city called Ningbo, which makes paper. The city has grown and the mill has remained where it is. And apparently, it makes 0.6 million tons of carton board. And the city has probably told, the Chinese authorities have told the Ningbo mill that they should now shut down or shift to a different location. So you will have these challenges, and then India, as we grow and as our GDP increases, you are going to be present with these challenges. So we need not repeat some of the mistakes that have happened there. Some of it is policy about how you disperse the industry. Some of it is all the facilities, including wastewater treatment, air emissions, and all that you build in, and how you proceed. And maybe we can be a bit more ahead of them in choosing technologies which are more renewable energy oriented compared to the industries that have already come up. If you scale up very fast, you can do it only one way. So China also is very coal-based growth. So maybe if incentives and the proper framework exists in India, both the paper and the print industry can grow in a more sustainable way.
Sure. All right. Thank you, Venkat. I think with that, we'll sort of conclude this Q&A. I'm sure we'll be getting in a few more questions. As and when we get them, we'll share them with the panelists, and hopefully edited versions will be published in the magazine. So before I conclude, thank you, Venkatraman. Thank you, Vijay Jadhav. Thank you, Mr. Muthu. Thank you very much. I think 2 or 3 big lessons for us: that print is not necessarily anti-green, it is environmentally friendly, that there are printing plants and paper manufacturing plants that have undertaken steps as part of the larger green drive, that not only is it meant for the big players, but it's also for the smaller players, and that with some amount of maintenance, some amount of skilled manpower, with the right material, we can sort of place the right emphasis on at the grassroots level. That's our email ID for those of you who want to write in case you want to send in your entries for the green category 2015. Please feel free to do so. If you have any queries, please send in your inquiry. We'll be having this series of webinars continuing. I think the next one is on a hot theme, which is digital. Thank you very much. Thank you all of you who've been listening to this session, which has gone on for about 90 minutes. Thank you very much on behalf of PrintWeek, on behalf of ITC,